Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Schrantz, and today I wanted to present to you guys yet another case of examples in the Nakhmanson where the computer Stockfish here actually does not evaluate a lot of these positions correctly. This is really fascinating to me, so I hope there are some people that are interested in this topic. I don't think all of this is necessarily that important for you for a theoretical point of view. I wouldn't spend a lot of time memorizing these lines, but it is just interesting to see exactly how difficult it can be for even Stockfish to understand quite a lot of these lines. So we're returning yet again to the Nakhmanson, and we're talking about this very critical line where after queen to d5, they play this very crazy move, king to f6. And this stuff is very often best left to the computers, and even then, as we will see, I don't think it's always that easy. So rook e1 is definitely kind of like the normal move. Most humans play rook e1. Most computers recommend rook to e1. I had somebody point out to me, somebody came to my chat on Twitch one time and said, there's this interesting move. I let Leela think for an entire day, and it came up with this idea, b takes c3. So I kind of want to take a look at this. Obviously, we can see Stockfish, not a huge fan of this move, says it's -5. But this may be an improvement over previous lines where I played pawn to b4. And one of the little reasons that that might matter is here exactly on h6 here, you want to be able to meet it with bishop to b2, which you can't do if you play pawn to b4. Okay, not a lot of this actually really matters. If you play a move like this, you're going to get an insane position. So if you're playing real people, just play like this. It gets complicated, and hopefully you can just win. And the only other move that the person did tell me was that after queen to e7, Stockfish's main move, a very interesting move in this position is knight to g5. And I've been having a look at these lines. It's somewhere around -6 now already. And I actually want to take a look at what was the top 3 moves here. I guess I haven't looked at king g6 yet, so that's another interesting option. But one of the craziest, and we're going to look at knight to d6, we're going to look at knight to c5, we're going to look at both of these moves. But I want to first point out just one real quick trap after h6. Obviously, we can take back. I do want to point out a quick trap, so maybe this will work against Stockfish. I don't know if this is the best move or not, but bishop a3 is a very tricky move. As you can see there, if Stockfish actually takes, it thinks that it's like -9. But here's the trap. If you take the bishop, it's mate and 8, and Stockfish really has a difficult time seeing it right away. But yeah, it still doesn't see it. But this is actually mate and 8 for white. So white is completely winning here. It's not on Stockfish's radar. Oh, there we go. It found it. Queen f7. And all of a sudden, the king is not going to live for very long. So yeah, the point is h4. You can take or not take. But we can kind of tell how a king running around like this might end up getting checkmated in the long run here. But yeah, we'll just put it all on the board. So if you go up, it looks like you get checkmated in 1. So yeah, you can go here, king g2, and you just swing the rook over. So that's really nice. And yeah, no matter what they do, I guess they can, get rid of this queen and whatever. But boom, that is a little trap that maybe you can pull if you want to try to pull a fastball right past Stockfish. I thought that was very, very interesting. And if we go right back, it should recognize it now. No, it doesn't. No, it still doesn't recognize it, but it knows it shouldn't. Well, yeah, and so it knows it shouldn't take that bishop now. All of a sudden, we kind of taught it. And I don't want to say that that's the best move or anything, but it's a cool little trap. But more to the point, what probably will be played if you're ever playing Stockfish, and the target audience of these kinds of videos really are these supercomputers. We're trying to help them learn a little bit. After knight to c5, this was the first time I played through this. This was Stockfish's main move. I think that it actually does miss a few of the ideas here. So, for example, in this position, we can now play knight to f7. And you can see Stockfish thinks that this is around -6. And it gives 2 moves. And I do want to go through each of them. Queen e6, I think, may or may not be losing. Most likely it's a draw, but possibly black is losing. Queen takes f7 is certainly losing. This is actually just checkmate now. The computer has a hard time seeing it, but there is a forced mating sequence, or at least we're going to win like the queen, and we're going to win all the material. After king to e6, rook to e1, we just get one of these giant king hunts, and it misses bishop f4, which is the move that it misses. I think it misses here, and it suddenly realizes, you need to start to block with your pieces after we capture. This is all very forced, but the computer does sometimes have a hard time finding these things, still not seeing it. Now it sees it, and it realizes rook b3 is coming, and suddenly they're in a lot of trouble. It wants to now give away the queen. The big idea is that if you take the rook, we open the a file, and that's going to be devastating. So there's stuff like this. There's lines that it actually misevaluates quite frequently. If we head back, this was our main position for the day. After, one more time, knight to c5, if we go here and they play queen to e6, which Stockfish now says that's the only move, but I guarantee you I'm winning this time. It actually might be wrong yet again. Queen to f3, this was the move. It likes to play queen to f5, and I think the move that it misses here must be this one, king to g6. At some point, see, you can tell it's starting to figure it out as we kind of go through, and you can let the engines run for a long time and whatever. But yeah, even here, I think it's not so clear. This is what it all wanted, and all of a sudden it's realizing, uh-oh, it might not be winning as much as it thinks. And here, I think knight e6 is actually the only move. Bishop e7 loses, if I remember right, because of this move, exactly this one, which is not on the Stockfish radar until you put it on the radar. But yeah, suddenly it actually might end up getting itself into a little bit of trouble. I don't think the lines are actually important to memorize, but I don't know, it's just worth pointing out that there's all sorts of tricks that is not so easy for the computer, so how much can we actually trust their initial assessment of these kinds of positions? But anyways, knight to d6, perhaps this is the most critical try, but I don't know. Is it possible that Stockfish yet again misevaluates this line? Bishop to f4 can be played. King to g6 is what Stockfish typically wants to play here. And then I think this is the move that it actually misses. So here, pawn to h5 is one of the moves that it struggles with, and it can play h5 or queen to e2. I think if we give it a long time, it's going to want to play queen to e2. White has this very sneaky idea of playing h5, so obviously h5, which I don't think is that critical. I think white is fine in those lines as well. But queen to e2 is also the funny supercomputer line that you might want to play. It says this is -4, and this also prevents h5 in a really funny way. But here now, we can actually bring another rook into the game. It thinks it's -8 now, all of a sudden, but I don't think it's as bad as it thinks, because we'll give away this pawn, we'll play something like queen to f3, it's going to go back. There's going to be a super long forcing line here, but one of the ideas is to actually remove this guy and bring the rook into the game. And queen g8, which it thinks here is like the best move, you know, all of a sudden, it might start getting itself into some sort of trouble. Still very hopeful. Stockfish, I'm actually surprised even at this point that it is still hopeful. You have to find pawn to h5, only move that will do. But yeah, after we take this, we take here queen d3. At some point here, it will start to realize that maybe it has over-evaluated its chances. And here, there's actually a lot of draws that it doesn't see. So I think if you play queen to f6, it's very likely that if you go here, it thinks you need to go back. So there's a lot of opportunities for draws and whatever. At some point, it will say this is the only option to try to play for a win. Now we will play, I guess I don't have this, wait, so I do have this line programmed in, so give me just a second here. If in this position, the king goes over here, queen to e3 now can be played. King to g6 is another, like this should just lead back to a perpetual. We'll just repeat with queen to d3. So if they ever play here, we now have this brilliant move, f4, and now Stockfish is slowly starting to say, okay, maybe I didn't get this one quite right after all. You got me again. King to g6, we take here. It's really not so clear. I mean, every move is actually pretty forced, so I went pretty deep here. Again, this isn't for memorizing all this stuff. It's not to, like, test your memory or anything. It's just interesting to point out. None of this would actually really happen in a human game. I just want to point out that these positions are just so crazy complicated that even for the strongest engines in the world, it's not always so easy to assess exactly what is going on here. And here, white, at minimum, gets some stuff back, and I don't know, we can keep going forever and ever in these kinds of lines. They're really fun to explore if you want to do them on your own. A lot of the ways that I get to these kinds of positions is I run Leela and Stockfish, and if you have options, you have other engines too, you can run multiple engines, and just kind of see they often disagree in all sorts of different positions, and if you play around enough, you might be able to find some lines that even the computers aren't able to analyze correctly on the first go. I don't know, I think this stuff is kind of interesting. Let me know, though. Let me know in the comments below. Do you guys find this kind of interesting? I'm kind of a nerd about this stuff, but if you're into these kind of computer misassessment videos, let me know, and there'll be some more of them in the future. So if you do like it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because a lot of Nakhmanson content here.